You're seeing footage from Iran as that nation carries out yet another ballistic missile test. In fact, their second test in recent months. Meantime, the Obama administration insists that these tests do not violate the nuclear deal recently agreed to, but may in fact violate UN sanctions. The White House going on to say it will push for a, quote, appropriate response to Iran's missile tests by raising the issue in the UN Security Council. But is that really enough to keep Iran in line? Joining me now on the anchor desk, the former director of both the NSA and the CIA, General Michael Hayden, currently a principal at the Chertoff Group. Mike's also the author of the new book, Playing to the Edge, American Intelligence in the Age of Terror. Mike, welcome back to Newsmax Prime, this time face-to-face.
Happy to be here, JD. Thank you.
What does this tell you about Iran?
It tells you that Iran, whatever we may or may not have accomplished with the nuclear deal, but all those other things that Iran had been doing that were very troubling and destabilizing, Iran continues to do. Ballistic missile tests, support for Bashar al-Assad, support for Shiite militias in Iraq, all those things across the board. So far, no change.
Mike, any idea about the range of these new Iranian missiles?
They aren't in any way going to threaten the United States. They're designed right now, their level of development, with apparently North Korean cooperation. Their level of development allows them to threaten the region, but they're building in the direction, not unlike North Korea, to be able to reach out and touch anyone they feel they want to threaten.
We want to get to the North Koreans in just a second, but Mike, we understand that ISIS may be plotting a spectacular attack. Recent reports say it would come in the UK. According to British officials, the attack would be on a larger scale than anything we've seen before. The terror level in the UK is at the severe stage, meaning officials there believe an attack is highly likely. What can you discern from these public reports?
Well, number one, the British are very responsible. Their intelligence services are very good. And frankly, the British do keep a stiff upper lip far more than we Americans do. So when you have the British sounding this way, I take that very, very seriously. They must have good intelligence indicators that something is afoot, and they're not totally confident that they can stop it. And you know, our counterterrorism specialist, Lisa Monaco, in the White House, is also making similar sounds that there is something afoot, something that ISIS is preparing to do.
So the real headline is not so much our British cousins, but if Lisa Monaco at our White House is saying something, there is a threat here to our homeland.
Well, you have to believe that, JD, even if you don't have the dots connected that leave you here. You know, we have underestimated these guys consistently. Even pre 9/11, we knew they were up to something. We hadn't just internalized, it was that something. And they've surprised us in the past. So if you're seeing chatter or whatever it is that's suggesting this activity, and it's suggesting in one direction, that may be simply because that's where they've gone before. And they have a nasty habit of surprising us.
And that's something we really need to take very seriously.
Yeah, we do.
All right. Let's talk about something else where our intelligence has borne some fruit. In Somalia, where more than 150 al-Shabaab fighters were killed in a U.S. airstrike. It came as the terrorists were actually preparing to leave a training camp. We understand they were going through what in essence was a graduation ceremony.
Yeah, so number one, if you believe what you read, and I do, all right. This was the product of near exquisite intelligence. You knew what the target was, when you had to strike them, when they were about to move, and it appears as if it was conducted with a great deal of precision. According to press accounts, not just unmanned aerial vehicles, but you also had manned strike aircraft as well.
Does this successful strike mean that we are getting a handle on al-Shabaab and other terror elements in Africa?
You know, JD, this is a necessary step, and certainly you celebrate it because you've made yourself safer for a while. You know, I've got this extended metaphor where I talk about when we fight terrorists, sometimes we mow the grass, sometimes we weed. What we really need to do is landscaping. This is probably weeding. I mean, it's a higher order than most things, but there's still a lot more work to be done.
Let me talk some about politics. Republican frontrunner Donald Trump has drawn a lot of criticism for comments on waterboarding, among other things. Now, Mike, I understand you had a part in a letter saying, hold on a second, that military men were Donald, the commander-in-chief. They would say, wait, these are unlawful orders, and since Mr. Trump has retreated. Explain your concern, and do you think Donald's response is adequate?
So it was on another network. I got the cold question. He said he's going to target terrorist families. In other words, he's going to order the armed forces of the United States to kill non-combatants. And I simply said on that broadcast, I don't think the American armed forces are going to do that. That is an obviously illegal order. And that not only are they not required to follow that out, they are actually required not to do it. And so I just think the first time an order like that comes down the chain of command and hits somebody, a man or a woman in an American military uniform, JD, the response is going to be simply, that's just not going to happen.
Earlier in this campaign, you made no bones about it. You were advising Jeb Bush.
I did.
Now the governor is out of the race. Have you made a determination who to back?
No, I've not. And there are some that I would certainly respond to, and I don't mean to be evasive. Some, there have been conversations, but JD, I'm on a book tour, and I actually think it would cheapen the campaign effort if I were to identify now while I'm out here doing something so obviously commercial. So when the book tour is done, I'm quite willing to advise candidates that I think would make good presidents.
But is there an open invitation to anyone who wants to sit down with you, including Donald Trump?
I have not been invited to talk to Mr. Trump.
Stay tuned for that. Speaking of the book tour, again, the name of the book is Playing to the Edge: American Intelligence in the Age of Terror. General Michael Hayden, always a lot to talk about.
Thank you.
And we
Thanks,
thank
JD.
you so much for your time. Well, you heard what Mike had to say. Agree or disagree? Why don't you send your comments to me at newsmaxtv.com/comments. We'll be right back.